Hey everyone, before we start the episode, I wanted to give a huge thank you to our recent patrons, Chaotic Ace Cryptid and Philnith. Thank you so much for your support.
Around the time we left Rapid City, I got a message on Monsters Den. It was from our old pal David, aka Cat Squatch. He wanted to let me know about a story he'd overheard from a friend of a friend. Turns out there had been another rash of pets going missing a few hours away from where he lived. There hadn't been any reported creature sightings that he knew of, but there were enough rumors swirling around that he suggested we might want to check it out. And since it'd only take about 2 days of driving to reach the area, we decided to head that way.
So, we've got missing pets in northern Wisconsin again. Think it might be Mishipeshu?
Certainly sounds the same as last time, but we moved Mishipeshu to that national forest.
Hiawatha.
Right, Hiawatha. This is nowhere near that. A few hundred miles at least. And why would it suddenly be going after pets again?
That's assuming there's only one. If there's a whole species out there, any sort of food source disruption could theoretically cause the same type of problem.
Oh, yeah, of course. You know, it's also the right area for lycanthropes. And the Dewey Lake monster. There's kind of a lot of things around that area.
Huh. Interesting.
You think?
Yeah. As long as you don't call it the fucking Wisconsin Triangle or something dumb like that.
The disappearances were spread throughout multiple towns, but they all generally centered around northern Wisconsin. So we started driving through these small towns, asking around, and sure enough, in a town called Park Falls, we finally found someone who knew something. Well, we found someone who saw something.
Oh, awesome! Do you mind if we get that again on tape?
We just like to keep a record of our investigations.
I guess that's fine. So yeah, like I said, I was helping my friend Tom look for Ziggy.
His dog.
Right, yeah, a little Cocker Spaniel.
And how long ago did Ziggy go missing?
About 2 weeks ago, and this was just a few days after that. We were in the woods near his house. We had split up, so I didn't see anything, but Tom started yelling and running back to where I was. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he saw a giant snake.
Did he give you any other details?
No, he said it was mostly obscured by the underbrush, but he could tell it was big and slithering.
How big?
I don't know for sure. Bigger than any snake we've ever heard of. I assume it's dangerous, though. The other guy that asked us about it said Tom had been smart to run away.
Someone else was asking about it?
Yeah, like 2 days ago.
Did he happen to be wearing a black suit by any chance? Sunglasses?
Yeah, how'd you know?
Lucky guess. Thanks for your time.
So, it seemed that the Ordo was on the case as well, and quite possibly ahead of us. But we weren't going to worry about that for now. With this new description of a possible creature, I got started on research, and finally, I did find some legends that I had a pretty good feeling about. Couldn't be sure, but odds seemed good that this was the creature that had been eating pets.
You've got something?
Yeah, I think it's a horned serpent.
Horned serpent. Is it, by any chance, a snake with horns?
Yeah. Excuse me, girl. As I was saying, it's a creature from Native American folklore. Now, there haven't been any actual reported sightings, but there are a lot of different tribes that have legends about a similar animal. The Blackfoot tribe calls it Omoxo Yiskixina.
That's a mouthful.
I know. I have been practicing saying it well, and I still can't. Anyway, it means big water snake. The Abenaki and Penobscot tribes call it Gitaskog, Great Serpent. The Arapaho have Hint Kabit, meaning Water Master. The Mi'kmaq call it Jipij Kam. The Passamaquoddy call it Xai Athusos. A lot of tribes call it Maneto, which can mean both spirit and snake. A lot of other tribes call it Misiginabig. The Iroquois have Oniare, Great Snake. The Chickasaw and Choctaw have Sindholo. The Cherokee have Uctina. And the Dakota and Lakota call it Unktahila.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of names.
Now, it's usually just called the Horned Serpent, but if you want a more proper name, Uctina seems to be the favored one, as best as I can tell.
All right. What do the legends actually say about it?
Well, some of the commonalities that come up among all the different variations are that it eats people, it's covered in impenetrable armor or only vulnerable to lightning, they can be appeased with gifts or offerings. True to its name, it's usually described as a giant snake with a body as wide as a tree trunk and with the antlers of a deer. Some versions say it has wings. Its scales are often said to be crystalline, and it has a large crystal embedded in its forehead. That crystal itself is called Ulun Suti, which means transparent. Different stories claim that it has different magical powers, but they can only really be utilized by special priests. And that's about it.
And you said there aren't any reported sightings?
That is correct.
Well, alright then. Let's see if we can find a snake.
We gathered everything we thought we might need and headed to a stretch of woods outside of town. Pulling into the parking lot for the trailhead, we saw another car there that had familiar markings. As we had guessed, it belonged to the Ordo. No one was around, though, so we decided to just continue as usual.
Remember, if we run into any of them out there, don't bring up my powers or my grandfather.
I know, of course. We made our way out into the woods and started looking around. Sure enough, though, it wasn't long before we ran into a familiar face.
Agent Sawyer.
Ah, Miss Miller and Lucas. A pleasure once again. Will you be joining me in my hunt for the Horned Serpent?
Joining you?
Normally, in times of monster activity, protocol dictates persuading civilians to leave the area, especially during an active hunt. But considering that you two already got first-hand experience in the field, not to mention our previous partnership, I think I could let protocol slide. Having said that, I was here first, so if you want to stick around, we'll be following my lead. Think you can do that?
Sure thing.
Right. Of course. Let's do this.
And with that, we joined forces with Sawyer and began to search for the Horned Serpent in earnest. At Mia's request, we didn't talk about her powers, but she found a moment to take me aside and tell me that she wasn't picking anything up, so we were stuck with the more mundane methods anyway. Food traps seemed to make the most sense, as this creature was clearly hungry enough to be going after cats and dogs.
Thankfully, I don't have to go out hunting this time. I brought plenty of bait with me.
Great.
Do you think these traps will be strong enough to hold it?
Probably not. That's why we've got rifles.
Oh, right. Duh.
And, failing that, I can call in the big guns if I really need to.
Do you mean the black helicopters?
Among other things, yes. But we try not to exercise those options unless absolutely necessary. I think we can handle a snake, though.
And you're definitely set on killing it?
Yes, Miss Miller. How long until it moves from pets to humans? Or more specifically, children? It clearly poses a threat.
I know. I just wish we could relocate it. Your Ordo should just buy a huge, uninhabited plot of land someplace out in the middle of nowhere and start a cryptid preserve. A real safe zone.
An intriguing idea, to be sure. Somehow, though, I doubt the bosses would embrace it.
That's too bad. And, I guess you can call me Mia.
Duly noted.
Another 2 days passed without incident. It seemed the food traps weren't working. Sawyer argued that we needed live bait, given the dietary habits of most snakes, but Mia drew a firm line against that, and Sawyer begrudgingly relented. The skies were gray and overcast, and morale was beginning to sink. The next afternoon, however, we caught a lucky break.
Finally!
Is that a snake track? Guess you can't call it a footprint.
Yeah.
You can see all the brush, bent and flattened around it, too. Definitely something heavy that did this.
Yeah, and good timing. Hopefully we can find it before the storm moves in. I'd like to avoid getting drenched if I could help it.
With some tracks to follow, we finally started making decent progress. After about 2 hours following the snake's trail through the woods, Sawyer suddenly held up a hand, motioning for us to stop.
Don't move.
What?
It's right there, blending in.
Crap. Good eye. How did you notice that?
It's kind of my job.
Sawyer lifted his rifle to take aim, but unsurprisingly, the snake noticed us. Rather than trying to attack, though, it must have decided that we weren't worth the trouble, and it started to slither away. We chased after it as best we could, but we finally lost it when it disappeared down a hole in the ground.
Damn it! We were so close.
This must be its burrow.
At least now we know how big it is.
Yeah. I might have to call this in after all. What I wouldn't give for a flamethrower right now.
You guys have flamethrowers? Suddenly, without warning, it started to rain. A heavy downpour. The storm had arrived.
Awesome.
So much for beating the rain.
Wait a minute. This could actually be a good thing.
Seriously?
No, she's right. Snakes come up when it rains, so they don't drown. If we're lucky, the rain might drive this thing right back out of its hole.
Exactly.
We waited in the pouring rain for about an hour. In that time, we had set up a net around the entrance of the burrow, hoping that the snake would get caught in it if it tried to leave. Once that was set, we just waited. Cold, wet, and miserable. Finally, though, Mia was right. It came back. As it approached the opening of the burrow, Sawyer and I readied our guns, hoping that the net would slow down the snake long enough for us to take aim. Which it did for all of 2 seconds before it managed to break free. At the same time, we both fired. I couldn't tell if either of us actually hit the snake, but either way, the shots must have scared it because it went speeding off in the opposite direction. We chased after it once again, stopping only when it slithered into a pond. As the snake began swimming across the water, we started to take aim again. Before we could fire, however, we were interrupted by a screech that cut through the sound of the rain.
The hell is that?
Wait, I know that sound.
Soaring overhead was a creature we had seen before, a thunderbird. It swooped down at the water and grabbed the snake with its talons. The snake immediately started writhing around, moving its head to try and get a better angle to bite at the thunderbird. But before it could attack, a spark of electricity from the thunderbird paralyzed the snake. We were momentarily speechless. Sawyer took this opportunity and fired, killing the snake. Yes! You got it!
Wait, what are you doing?
Unless my math is wrong, there's 2 creatures here. We're only half done.
What? No! Please don't kill the Thunderbird!
Mia, it's my job.
It's not a threat. Hell, it just helped you kill the snake!
Fine. The Ordo doesn't need to know that the bird was here.
Thank you.
I know what you think of the Ordo, but I'm not a total monster.
You're right. I'm sorry.
We watched the Thunderbird fly away, its newly acquired dinner in hand, before heading back to camp to dry off and hunker down for the night. The next morning, once the rain had passed, we made breakfast and started packing our things to leave.
I wanted to tell you something.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. My grandfather actually worked for you guys once upon a time. Even after he left them, he spent his whole life looking for cryptids.
Wow, is that so?
Yeah, Norman Carter.
Oh.
Oh? What oh?
No, nothing.
No, you just made a face. I saw it. What is it?
It's... Listen, I shouldn't be telling you this, but you two are good people. You deserve to know the truth.
What?
I know that name.
You do?
Your grandfather, he had a special power, the same way that monsters do.
Excuse me?
Yeah, for the lack of a better word, he was a psychic. And in the eyes of the Ordo, this made him a monster. They weren't gonna kill him, mind you. But once they learned about his powers, they wanted to keep him under lock and key. Obviously, your grandfather wasn't a fan of that idea, so he went on the run. The Ordo looked for him for a while, but he managed to evade them. And over time, finding him became less and less of a priority. Eventually, though,
What?
humans and creatures that have mental abilities, they're susceptible to a form of disease that others aren't. Something like dementia. It makes them violent. You actually encountered one of these specimens recently.
We did?
As a matter of fact, I was part of the team that worked cleanup on it, for Mr. Dobbs and his crew members.
Sasquatch Sammy?
The Janasqua?
Exactly. A few years back, the Ordo finally tracked down your grandfather. I wasn't there, but it was big news around the agency. He was taken in, and during a customary evaluation, the agents noticed that he was exhibiting signs of this disease. And he had to be neutralized. I'm so sorry.
You people killed my fucking grandfather?
Mia, you have to understand. There was nothing else we could do. It wouldn't have been long until he hurt someone.
I don't fucking care! I knew your Ordo was just a bunch of murderers!
Lucas, you have to understand at least.
No way. I am not taking sides in this.
Fuck you, Sawyer! Don't ever contact either one of us again! Lucas, get your things. We're leaving. Field notes. Horned serpent, or Uktena. The creature was a massive snake, measuring approximately 37 feet long. It did have a pair of horns, although they were less like antlers and more like that of a goat, or even a gazelle, with a gentle curve and only a single point. In general, the creature resembled a water moccasin, also known as a cottonmouth, with alternating bands of brown and an orangey bronze. It also had a series of bright white spots along its back and on its forehead. These probably led to the myths claiming that it was covered in crystals. Given all the missing pets, and considering all snakes are carnivorous, this one seems to be no exception. It probably feeds normally on small to medium-sized game, and could certainly pose a threat to humans, especially if it's venomous like the water moccasin. Although I'm not sure in this instance what led to this particular creature going after pets. Let's just hope that whatever it was, it doesn't happen again. Now, assuming there are other horned serpents out there, it seems that they are preyed upon by thunderbirds, which is definitely not the only instance of birds hunting snakes in the animal kingdom. The bird's electrical powers definitely help subdue the creature as well. I wonder if that's their primary function, or just helpful coincidence. That's about it. Sorry, I'm just not really feeling up to this right now. End field notes.
Annie? Hey!
Lucas, it's time.
The Cryptid Cases has been a production of Little Giant Monsters.
You can follow us by searching Little Giant Monsters on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to keep up to date with everything we're working on. We even post a sketch of the latest cryptid every Monday after a new episode.
You can also visit our website, littlegiantmonsters.com, to see all of our content in one place.
While you're there, want our designs on stickers, t-shirts, coffee mugs, and more? We now have merch. Just look for the merchandise link on our website.
If you really like what we're doing and want to see us do more, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Rewards include behind-the-scenes content, bonus material, and more. Search Little Giant Monsters on Patreon or find a link on our website.
You can also help us by leaving a rating and review on iTunes. Not only does each review warm our cold, cynical hearts, but it helps us move up the charts and bring the show to a wider audience.
Your continued support means so much to us. Thanks for listening and see you again soon.